Welcome to this week's audio and video podcast with Eagle Head football coach Beau Baldwin. It's brought to you by Cheney Federal Credit Union, serving their members' financial needs since 1951. Coach, big win against Montana on Saturday. Third straight year now you've defeated the Grizzlies, and I think that says a lot about what you, your staff, and players are doing with this program at this point in time.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have a hand in that. I mean, everything from the support of our president, now presidents, in terms of the growth we've had, to administration, to just game day atmosphere, to all the different things that go into it. And yeah, definitely the staff that has done, in my opinion, an amazing job just building our depth to a level where we can, have that type of consistency, developing players, recruiting players, get our eyes on the right guys, and then ultimately the kids coming in here and truly, I shouldn't even call them kids, the young men coming in here and truly buying in to the culture and the mindset and the long-term goals that we have. Yeah, we want to get, it's game by game and all that stuff, but there was a vision to what we want to be as a program over the long haul, and the guys are really buying into the day-to-day process to get to that point.
Montana had only allowed 15 touchdowns out of 31 opponent trips into the red zone this year. You said, what the heck? We don't need to get into the red zone to score a touchdown. You get 4 long pass touchdowns, and 2 of them were just spectacular catches.
Yeah, I mean, that's not necessarily the plan going in, but we do have a knack and have an ability to make big plays, and we try and you try not to force them though. Sometimes some games you can try and force them, you try and let them come to you when they're there, you take them, and if not, you want to keep moving the ball. We definitely had quite a bit of a red zone plan coming into the game. We just didn't ever get to it, so to speak. But no, our guys did. They made a lot of big plays. They took advantage at different times of a situation or a matchup, between, Vernon, using his eyes, moving guys, manipulating certain, coverages so he could get guys in true one-on-one situations. And then the receivers, made a couple of tremendous catches, and also I think left out of it was Shaq's balancing act down the sideline. I mean, we got caught up in the 2 great catches, but Shaq's run after a catch, that was impressive. That's not easy to do, staying in bounds, tiptoeing. So some amazing plays there.
You talked about Vernon's ability to look people off and to buy a little bit of time. You've coached Meyer, you've coached Nichols, you've coached Mitchell. How does he is he a little better at that maybe than some of those guys were? They all were great quarterbacks and they all had their own strengths.
Yeah, I think that piece for him, he's the best I've seen at truly being able to manipulate a defense, think quickly is the best way I can say it. I mean, he can think on the run so well. And I'd say, Meyer was right up there in that regard too, of being able to really think, just think on the run and boom, get off something and come to something else based on, a post snaps. Because sometimes, pre-snap reads are one thing, but when they can disguise something and roll into something post snap, and you can think on the run quickly and go to your plan B, plan C as a quarterback and do it in a timely fashion, that's not easy to do. And Vernon's able to do that so well, and also just understands exactly when he does recognize what he's going to get. He understands exactly where he's going to go with the football, but he has a plan to get you, to be somewhere else, and then he can, create that one-on-one matchup just by using his eyes, a quick arm pump, different things like that you can teach it, but the guy still has to be able to go out. There's only so much you can teach. There's some stuff that he has. It's just different no matter how much you coach.
He said in our post-game radio interview on Saturday after the game, he said he knew last Sunday he was going to play on Saturday. When did you know he was going to play on Saturday? Because you're the one with the final call.
Honestly, for me, I was there a little bit on Tuesday, but definitely there by Wednesday. Is the best way I can say it. I mean, in his mind, of course he does. In his mind, he's a competitive young man. Says, I'm finding a way to be out there Sunday, but on Sunday I still hadn't seen him do anything. So we still hadn't seen him do anything. He still needed to be checked out again by the doctors. So I want him thinking that way. That's awesome. That's the way he should think. But for us, I wanted to see where he was Tuesday and where he was Wednesday to really get a good feel. And you got that feel, and you started to see it progress through the week. And so you already had a good idea Tuesday, a definite idea Wednesday for myself, and then you really started to see that personality come out of him again on Thursday and Friday, leading right up into the game. So yeah, it was a week where we had an idea, but you still didn't know for sure until you went out there and did the stuff in practice.
Was there a drop dead date of, okay, he's got to be ready I've got to have confidence in him by Wednesday or by Tuesday or by Thursday or whatever it was for him to play on Saturday, in that you wanted to get Jordan some reps too?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a drop dead date. There wasn't for me. I was just gonna, we were gonna feel out the week, and we still could have been undecided all the way to Thursday and Friday. I mean, for all intents and purposes, if you're still trying to feel out the week and give each day a chance. So no, I did not set a drop dead date, but I was really going to take that hard look and eval on Tuesday and Wednesday, because those are the full practices. I mean, those are the meatier practices for us, at least on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I wanted to get a good look at what he was capable on those couple days, and that gave us a good idea.
All right, let's talk defense, because we haven't done that yet. They got into the red zone 3 times. You got 1 stop, and you forced them into a couple of field goals. So they didn't get a touchdown in the red zone, and I thought that was one of the keys to the game.
Absolutely. We thought it coming in, and obviously our situation was different because we ended up scoring from depth. But we thought, the team on both sides of the ball that won in the red zone, and for us, our defense to be able to do that was huge. I mean, when you get teams that have to trade, especially if we get going a little bit offensively, and we didn't even play a great game offensively because we weren't balanced enough, in my opinion, but we're still putting up a solid chunk of points, by midway through the third quarter. If you all of a sudden are forcing field goals or getting a turnover, that makes it real tough on an opponent. And our defense was able to do that, and in that area, for those, especially those first 2.5 to 3 quarters, played really good situational defense. We keep using that term in terms of how we defended them in the red zone, made things difficult, and forced field goals.
They also did an outstanding job. I think it's like 4th week in a row, maybe 5th week in a row, where you've made the opposition one-dimensional. They couldn't get anything going for the running game, and in the second half, they basically just became a throwing team, in part because they were down by 3 scores, but in part because they couldn't get a running game going.
Yeah, we did. We did a great job of doing that, and if a team is forced in that situation where they're down, where they're throwing for a ton of yards because they've thrown 50 times. That's not their plan coming into the game. It definitely isn't. So when you can take them out of their plan with what our defense was able to do in terms of, again, using the term making them one-dimensional, that's huge. I mean, that is big. No matter what the final total yard numbers and all that stuff shows up at, that's a huge statistic in terms of leading you to a better chance to win. And that's the only stats that are important, are the ones that lead towards victories. And when you can take away, especially a team like Montana, different maybe with an Idaho State, but even them, you see a difference in them with them running the ball. But certain teams you maybe say a little bit different, but with them, they definitely want to be able to set up all their passing game, all their play action by running the football first. And we were able to take that away. But in fairness to them, they did as well. I really felt like in the course of that game, both defenses outplayed the offenses in both sides. That's how I really felt. Now I think we were able to make enough plays and make more plays, and a huge special teams touchdown and build a great lead at 33-10. But through the course of the game, that was how I felt. But the key part with what our defense did is we didn't allow as many big plays, obviously, as we were able to get on offense. And then once they did get down the red zone, we held them to field goals. So that ended up being a big factor.
Ronnie Hamlin had a great game on Saturday, but that first drive that Montana had, he ended up breaking J.C. Sherritt's record on that drive. Plus, he got an interception as well. So, that was a pretty good deal for him, and it was a great way to send all the seniors out. They'll get another home game in all likelihood in the playoffs, but a great way for them to end their regular season at home by getting a big win.
It was. I mean, and so deserving of that group. They're just they're kind of a no-nonsense, quiet group, and there's Ronnie, perfect example. He doesn't want to say anything. He doesn't want to even be acknowledged in the locker room after the game. And here he is breaking, one of the best players to ever wear an Eastern uniform in J.C. Sherritt, one of the best players to ever play at our level in college football in J.C. Sherritt. And he breaks his record. He just wants to stand by his locker, doesn't want to say anything. That's just and that senior group has a little bit of that, just that no-nonsense, that work ethic. They're leading. They've earned, what they felt out there Saturday, being their final regular season game, playing against Montana, and a lot of them were red shirts in 10, or at least a chunk of them, different paths to get here, red shirts in 10, and there they were playing the first game ever out here against Montana, and then to be playing their last from a regular season standpoint. It was interesting how that script played itself out, and they earned it, but they know, just like all of us, that We talked about it yesterday. Those will be things you can reflect on later, but we got to keep responding after a win. We keep using those terms. So how are we going to respond after a win? How are we going to make these corrections? How are we going to keep moving forward? And those guys are excited about doing that and going back to work this bye week.
All right, so what happens during the bye week? How much do you practice? How much do you give guys time off? That kind of thing.
Well, we'll have 3 practices. We'll get another 2 lifts in this week, 3 total, though, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So we'll get lifts on 3 different days with cardio built into that. We'll have 3 practices on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then they'll come back Sunday. Sunday will be kind of like a Monday for us because we play next Friday. So they'll have a couple days there, Friday, Saturday off, and coaches will be able to get out and see high school games, and from a recruiting standpoint as well. I think it's all based on the individual. There are certain guys that are going to do more during the week than others. It's just where we are in the bye week. But even the guys that maybe aren't practicing as much, or you're trying to get their bodies recouped, you got to be careful though. You can't lose the weight room part of things. You can't lose the conditioning part of things. It can't just be, you can't sit around for 4 or 5 days resting, even though your body's at a point where you can use some rest, so to speak, but you can't, it's more rest on the shoulders, rest on some of the banging, getting that recouped, but all the while continuing to get some good lifts in, continuing to get cardio in, so you're not feeling like, oh man, I haven't done anything for 4 or 5 days. So it's kind of a fine line. You'll see a number of guys maybe not practicing, but it doesn't mean they're not doing anything all week. They're doing plenty. And then you'll see other guys that are getting a lot of reps in practice, and we'll get a lot of fundamental work, a ton of fundamental work, and we'll get ahead on Portland State. In terms of the 2 things we're trying to do.
I was going to say, are you guys working on Portland State right now as a staff? Are you starting to build your game plan?
We are. We're definitely doing that, but we're also focusing on probably, it's kind of like an A and a B thing, or 1A, 1B. I mean, yes, we want to be able to do that and focus on Portland State and the challenges they're going to present, which they obviously are. They have every year. We're in battles with them. We're doing that, but also we don't want to get away from, okay, it's a great time to revisit, here are 4 or 5 different things as a team we need to improve on. We need to improve on this. We need to improve regardless of who our next opponent is. And those will be some of the goals for the week and the focus in practice, being able to attack some of those things.
Coach, thanks for the time. We'll have a week of withdrawal with no football this Saturday, but we'll be back here again. We'll have another podcast for you next week.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. That's head coach Beau Baldwin on our podcast and videocast this week, brought to you by Cheney Federal Credit Union.